The Sacramento Kings just put the NBA on notice. Yes, it was a loss, but we saw the debut of DeMar DeRozan. We saw the development that Keegan Murray has taken over the course of the offseason, and we saw Sabonis once again look like a star out here to start off this season. And yes, changes are going to be coming. Changes will be made by Mike Brown, by the front office, by this team in terms of adjustments, in terms of adapting to this new looked roster. But frankly, playing against one of the best teams in the NBA, dominating the game for a large stretch, if it wasn't for a couple of factors that are easily fixable for this Kings team, this would have been a dominant, very strong opening night victory for Sacramento and for a newly put together roster, new players coming back into the mix after dealing with injuries over the course of the entire preseason. Sacramento really put the NBA on notice in regards to being a team that is once again an upper echelon squad in the Western Conference. So we're going to break down what Sacramento did in this game, the impact that this game really translates in terms of how they're playing over the course of the season, and why the NBA is going to be very, very frightened, in DeMar DeRozan's words, in terms of how this roster is looking entering this season. So lots of stuff to break down, but before we dive into any of that, folks, again, if you're part of the 84% of our viewers that haven't hit the subscribe button just yet, you want to stay up to date with everything that's going on with the Sacramento Kings. We are very, very close to our 500 subscriber goal as of recording. So make sure you guys hit that subscribe button so you don't miss a single thing that's going on with this Sacramento Kings team. But frankly, it was a loss. It was a heartbreaker. Keegan Murray could have hit that shot at the end. It was a tough one, a tough play that was drawn up. But frankly, I'm not too worried about the win, the loss in this final outing of action, or the first outing of action for the Sacramento Kings, because this team looked very, very solid. And a lot of the questions people had about this team, especially after a down preseason, with how the roster is going to look, how the defense is going to look, how everything sort of shaped out and played out, a lot of those questions were answered, and they were answered to, pretty positive answers in terms of what the Kings were able to do. And the first one was, obviously, how did DeMar DeRozan look? How did he fit within the Sacramento Kings system? Because last season, having an extra scoring valve beyond, Malik Monk, beyond De'Aaron Fox at the end of games, that's something that really would have been useful. Really would have been valuable for the Kings to close out these games, to finish off games. Just, another option out there in terms of a scorer, in terms of a shot creator, would have been extremely valuable for the squad. Frankly, DeMar DeRozan provided exactly that for this Kings team. I mean, we can look at the stats, right? 7 to 18 from the field, not the greatest field goal percentage, but 12 of 14 from the free throw line. Really just did a good job at, getting to the line, using that pump fake. It was something, it's not just legend, the DeMar DeRozan pump fake. He gets people biting with it and, gets to the line, gets legitimately fouled. It's not like a free throw merchant. He's doing a really good job at just drawing contact, doing things, driving to the lane and doing different stuff. Did a good job playing, again, a little bit more almost the power forward in this group. Him and Keegan Murray are the two forwards in this position, but at 8 rebounds, 26 points, and frankly, people talk about DeMar DeRozan's defense, and they kind of trash on it, and I thought the energy that he provided, he was switching on to Julius Randle for possessions, especially in the second half there, because Randle had an absolutely outstanding start of this game, cooled off as the game went along, but I guess didn't really, cooled off is not the right word, took less shots as the game went along. He had 33 points, but in the second half, I thought DeMar DeRozan was switched on to Randle for large stretches, and did a really good job, did a really effective job out there at guarding the paint, guarding someone that's a little bit oversized. So again, that was a huge positive, huge benefit to see out there on the basketball court. But frankly, the shots DeMar DeRozan takes are just all good shots. I feel really confident seeing him take those middies, take those late game shots, and we know he's one of the best fourth quarter scorers in the entire NBA, and you can see it by the looks that he's getting, the confidence that he has, the drives that he has, and really there were stretches that the Minnesota Timberwolves, that's with any game, right? Basketball's a game of runs, but a lot of the runs that Minnesota went on were with DeMar DeRozan out of the game, because whenever they'd hit a couple shots, they'd make a couple buckets, DeMar DeRozan would just come down and just take a good look or get to the free throw line and really slow down the momentum of the other team. So really it was the moments where he was out of the game, out of the course, where the Minnesota Timberwolves were able to go on their runs, were able to do their thing. So DeMar DeRozan just as that sort of piece to be that, other scorer, that other guy that you can rely upon to have an impact when De'Aaron Fox, needs a break or isn't having the hottest night. That is a huge, huge positive what DeMar DeRozan is providing. And he's been pretty blunt about how he feels about this team. He says this team is extremely exciting, dynamic, and once that rhythm comes, it's definitely going to be scary because obviously there were some possessions. I talked about this at the beginning, right? Like DeMar DeRozan is going to be a little bit more of a ball dominant scorer, a ball dominant guy, and then you have Malik Monk, you have De'Aaron Fox, you have those three guys with the ball in their hands. It's not going to be as free flowing basketball as we've seen last year, even though DeMar DeRozan again had 2 assists in this game, 1 assist, but really was doing a good job, I thought, making those cross-court passes, making some good pocket passes out there in the lane, but obviously finding the good mix of DeMar DeRozan having the ball versus, a guy like Domantas Sabonis having the ball out there in the mix because, again, him as a roller, him in the mid-post, you don't want to lose any of that because you have other players on the roster. So Mike Brown has some things to adjust, some things to adapt to in terms of how the roster is looking, but the biggest change, and I think one of the biggest issues in terms of why the Kings lost this game was because the Kings were up. You watch this game, Kings had their foot on the gas, did a really good job at just the entire game maintaining and slowing down Kings runs. But a lot of that had to do with either timely shots from DeMar, timely shots from Sabonis, or timely shots from Keegan Murray. There were a couple of times, especially when those guys weren't on the court, this Minnesota Timberwolves were going on a run, and Mike Brown just refused to call a timeout. Refused. Right? There was like 4 straight threes out there at the end of the third quarter, and Mike Brown just refused to blow the whistle. I don't care if it's late in the clock. I don't care whatever. You have Anthony Edwards starts cooking. A guy on the other team starts really rolling out there at that front. You have to call a timeout. It's basics of basketball. It's, the first thing you figure out when you're asked to coach a team, when you're asked to do these types of things. So frankly, that's one thing that does have to be fixed. It's an easy fix, right? It's just something you just gotta, hey, you see a timeout rolling, and this has been an issue at times for Mike Brown and for the Sacramento Kings, but this is something that, I don't know, even if it's Mike Brown, just Jay Triano, Barbosa, someone come out there and tell Mike Brown to call a timeout. Someone else get on timeout duties because, frankly, that's one of the main reasons. Kings were up by like 7-9 points, and then some Minnesota Timberwolves go on a run in like a minute and a half and hit 4 straight threes. You don't call timeouts there, you're not going to win a ton of games, especially playing against a team the level of the Minnesota Timberwolves. So, that's something that's on Mike Brown. A few adjustments out there in terms of the offense. Again, I'm not throwing the entire offense or throwing the entire game on Mike Brown, but that is something that does have to be addressed, does have to be talked about. So that is one factor that did come into play. That's the one sort of, scapegoat that I have for this loss, including just Anthony Edwards being an absolute monster, Julius Randle having a hot start. That is what it is. This is a talented roster, and Dante DiVincenzo, even though he only had 9 points, just some timely buckets. He's on his revenge tour there right now, but we're locked in on the Kings here now at this point, right? And Sabonis does, even without the ball in his hands, as much tonight, right? 24 points, 8 rebounds, 1 assist, 2 steals, 1 block. Had some timely just rolls to the basket. Him and De'Aaron Fox's pick and roll is still something great to see, which you love to view. But again, we know how good Sabonis is. He's going to have an impact regardless of how he's playing. Fox, again, 15 points. 11 assists, which is good. Him as a facilitator doing different stuff. Not his hottest night. Had a shot that really would have been very timely. Went in and out. A couple of them in the mid-range that you're used to him seeing. So seeing him knock down. So that is what it is. But the guy that really has to be addressed, I talked about him at the lead of this, Keegan Murray. 23 points in this one, looked extremely confident firing up those 3-point shots because, again, last year's a little bit of a down year for him in regards to, ups and downs, shooting the basketball, but tonight, or last night, really did a good job in terms of, just being out there confident in his threes, not taking too many, bad shots, like just confident, quick 3-point shooting from Keegan Murray on this roster where you have so many playmakers like Fox, like DeMar DeRozan, like Malik Monk. That's just exactly what the Kings need out here in this mix, and did a really good job on the defensive end. Had 11 rebounds, playing bigger than he is, because again, this roster needs guys that can step up out of position and do their thing out there, impact the both ends of the floor. We knew Murray is probably going to be the guy the team was relying upon for a ton of defense, and even though Ant had some big moments in this one, I thought most of what he got, again, it was 10-24 shooting, 15 threes from Ant is crazy, but I thought Murray did a really good job on him for this entire game. So that was some positives. Huerter came back, definitely looked a little bit rusty. Even the layup, the 2 points that he made, it was kind of like an in and out hesitation layup. So not too worried about him, but some people are saying, hey, why are you putting Keon Ellis on the bench when Huerter played this bad? He's coming back from injury. Not stressing about that too much. Lyles brought the energy, minus 14 for the game, but still you could see his added bonus on this roster. McDermott played a bunch of the fourth quarter. I don't know why you throw him out there. after sitting for like the first 3 quarters of the game. Mike Brown, again, that's a rotation that has to be figured out. Len, I wouldn't mind an upgrade out there at the center position if that is what it is. And then Malik Monk, 17 points, doing his thing out there, 4 assists, 6-9 from the field. I'm overall very happy with this game. I think things are going to come together. You sort of have your first real game with players back in the lineup with against the Minnesota Timberwolves that were hungry after an ugly sort of loss to the Lakers. This is what it is. You lose the game by a couple points. I'm not stressing about that. From the eye test, from everything we saw out there on the basketball court, this team is good. This team is not some team that's lost every preseason game. It's not the level like a team that's bad enough in terms of we should be worried because they lost their preseason games, because they lost the opening night. The Kings are going to be winning a ton of games this season. I'm very optimistic with what I saw. So very, very, a lot of many. That's a horrible way to close this, but a lot of positives to take away from this opening night. NBA's definitely put on notice with what the Kings were able to do. Let me know what you guys think in the comment section down below about this Kings opener. You guys best take as far. Subscribe to the channel if you guys haven't already. I'm signing out. Cheers.